Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we have an incredible guest for you guys. We have Chris Wark from Chris Beats Cancer, best-selling author, and has an incredible cancer story himself. He was diagnosed with colon cancer about 19 or 20 years ago, and he decided against radiation and chemotherapy. Instead, he turned to raw foods, 100% raw foods, and changed his lifestyle. And he is 19 years cancer-free. It gives me goosebumps to even talk about. And he is so inspiring. This is going to be such a great interview, beginning to end. So give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Give Chris a lot of love in the comments. Go follow him and let's get right into it. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Gillian, it's going well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. And I said before we got on, I'm sure you have told this story a million times. So I truly appreciate you coming on to tell it again. You're such an inspiration. I would love to start out for anybody who doesn't know, and even for people who do know, it's inspiring even to hear again. Just a brief summary of your story so we can connect with you and get to know you a little bit more before we get into the questions.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer when I was 26 years old. It was just a few days before Christmas, and big shock, obviously. I'd been having abdominal pain, and I had a colonoscopy after being referred around to several doctors who couldn't figure out what was wrong. Found a golf ball-sized tumor in my colon and told me, look, got to get you into surgery right away before this spreads and kills you. It was confirmed cancer by a biopsy. I just assumed that was the best thing for me, and I went in, postponed the surgery about 10 days because I didn't want to be in the hospital on Christmas because that was super depressing.
Mhm.
And I went in on December 30th. They took out a third of my large intestine. That's where the tumor was. When I woke up, they said, it's worse than we thought. You're stage 3C, and you're going to need 9 to 12 months of chemotherapy. So that was more bad news. And I was on heavy pain medication, so I was just kind of like, okay, you know. And but a couple things happened in the hospital that are worth sharing. The first thing that happened was the very first meal that I was served after a third of my large intestine was removed was a sloppy Joe. And the sloppy Joe was a surprise for sure. Surprised to see them bringing a sloppy Joe because that's the worst cafeteria food I can think of. And it's not something anybody would ever order. Restaurants don't serve them, right?
Oh.
It's like, as far as I know, the only place you can get a sloppy Joe would be summer camp, the military, prison, and surprise, hospitals. So, that was a bit of a, head scratcher. Why are they serving such horrible food to sick people, Then a few days later, I was told I could go home, and my surgeon came in, and I happened to ask him, hey, is there any food I need to avoid? And his response to me was, no, just don't lift anything heavier than a beer.
Wow.
So I'm starting to connect these dots, wow, the healthcare industry doesn't really care what you eat, right? Apparently nutrition doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you put in your mouth. And, cancer patients, most of them want to know why they got cancer. They're trying to figure out what caused my cancer? How did I get this? And when they ask their doctor that question, the answer that they get is, well, we don't know. And it's maybe it's hereditary if you have family history. If you don't have family history, maybe it's still genetic or just maybe bad luck. What they're saying in so many words is that there's nothing you did to contribute to your health or your sickness.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing you can do to help yourself. The only thing you can do to help yourself is show up for your next appointment, for your next treatment, right? We are your only hope. You are a victim and you're helpless and hopeless. Many patients buy into that, right? They love being told there's nothing you need to change about your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Victimhood is easy. Responsibility is hard. And so, I was at home recovering from surgery, and I was weaning myself off the pain medication because I just didn't like the feeling of being, on the meds. And as I sobered up, with over just the course of a week or so, I really started to think about my life and my future and what was to become of me. I had seen what chemotherapy did to people. It's it's pretty horrifying
Hmm.
when you see an advanced cancer patient, late stage, that's been through countless rounds of chemotherapy. And I had seen people like that in real life. And it made an impression on me. And I thought, that's me. Like, that's my future. And I didn't have a good feeling about that, right? I was, everything in me was like, don't do that, right? Don't let them do that to you. There must be some other way. And my wife and I prayed about it. And I just said, God, if there's another way besides chemotherapy, please show me. I don't know what to do. I need some help, and it was just a prayer of faith. Like, I was, asking for help and believing that I would get something. And 2 days later, I got something.
Crazy.
I got a book. Yeah. I got this book called God's Way to Ultimate Health by George Malcolmus. And George had colon cancer back in the 1970s. And he had seen his mother and other people he knew go through chemotherapy and suffer and die. Then he gets, finds out he has cancer, and happened to have a friend who said, man, what you need to do is you need to go back to the Garden of Eden. You need to start eating raw fruits and vegetables, all organic, and start drinking carrot juice. And so that's what he did. And within a year, his tumor had healed. Like, it was gone. His body healed. And it's, by the way, this is not a miracle cure. It's just healing, right? Healing is not a miracle. Healing is what your body wants to do. But sometimes it just needs a little bit of help from you, right? Some healing is automatic. You cut yourself, you get a scab, it heals up, and you don't have to do anything special. But with chronic disease, which is a whole different type of disease than an acute injury, chronic disease is caused by our diet and lifestyle and our environment and stress. All those factors play into developing chronic disease, like cancer and heart disease and autoimmune disease. And so, as I read his book, I just got so excited. Like, sometimes it just takes one person's testimony to change your life, right? One person coming into your life at the right time can completely send you on a different trajectory, right? And hopefully a good one, sometimes a bad one, right?
Yeah.
But in this case for me, it was just one person's story of healing that gave me enough hope and inspiration to change my own life. And so basically overnight, I decided, okay, well, raw food diet, let's do it. I'd never heard of the raw food diet. This was January 2004. And this was brand new information to me, right? There was no Instagram, there was no YouTube, no social media to speak of. Maybe MySpace was around.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
But there weren't any, what you think of now, like young, beautiful, attractive people promoting a raw food diet, right? This was a diet for sick people and weirdos. And which was perfect for me, actually. I'm like, oh, this is great. This is the ideal diet for me. And I was fascinated to see what would happen. Like, what would happen to my body just on a personal experimental level? What would happen to my body if I only ate all organic fruits and vegetables? Like, this is hardcore healthy, right? This is a hardcore healthy diet. Like, I was fascinated by it. And so anyway, it didn't take any deliberation. I just was like, I'm doing it. Went to Whole Foods, loaded up the cart. Whole Foods used to sell juicers. They don't anymore, but bought a juicer right there at the juice counter. Remember, Whole Foods used to juice in the store. They used to have the juice bar and juicers for sale.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so I was on my way, immediately. And that's the thing. Like, any person can change their diet today.
Yeah.
Like, you can change what you eat at the next meal, right? At your next meal, you can make different choices. And it's so powerful. It's like such a huge, powerful shift you can make by changing what you eat. It's like what I call the gateway drug to health, right?
Yeah.
Like, change what you eat first. So, I didn't have a whole lot of support from family. Most people around me thought I was being stubborn and I'd lost my mind and foolish
Yeah.
and it's really hard when you step off, step off the path, right? And go into the jungle by yourself. Like people, they just think you've lost your mind. And that's hard, right? When you're doing everything you're told to do in the cancer world, you're doing chemo, you're doing all that stuff. Everybody loves you, everybody supports you. You're getting
Yeah.
cards and you're getting, gift cards and you're getting food
Mhm.
brought to you and like teddy bears and flowers. Like everybody just loves on you. But as soon as you like deviate, everyone sort of evaporates,
Yeah.
right? All your support is just gone. And because people don't know, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to think about what you're doing and they're nervous for you or whatever. And so that is really hard emotionally. And I had to deal with that. Like I noticed it right away. Like people in my life were saying like, you have to do what the doctor says. You can't, if you don't do chemo, like you're probably going to die and don't be stubborn. And, I know somebody that tried alternative therapies and they died. Like people were telling me all kinds of stuff that was creating a lot of stress for me. It was very, very distressing and not helpful. And these are people that love me, right?
Yeah.
They thought they were being helpful. And so this is common, again, for folks in our community, in the holistic healing community, when you start changing what you eat, people around you, they don't like it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I found a doctor, a naturopathic doctor who supported me. He connected me with an integrative oncologist. And I just assembled a small support system. My mom was a huge supporter of in the beginning too. She totally understood what I was trying to do, and she had read a bunch of books on natural health and healing, and had a huge library of books, stacks and
Mhm.
stacks of books on raw food and alternative cancer therapies. Like she just had all these books, like she'd had for years, that she just read because she was interested, and and I just went from basically just through her library, and most of it just went from book to book to book to book, So I was read books by Paul Bragg and, there's Pavo Areola and Dr. Richard Schultz, Dr. Lorraine Day. Like, I was just reading all these books. And the cool thing was at that time is that every book I read, A Cancer Battle Plan, that's another one. Every book I read was basically saying the same thing: raw foods, juicing, fasting, detoxification, exercise, rebounding, forgiveness. And I was just connecting these dots and seeing all these common threads from people who had healed cancer or holistic cancer practitioners. Like they're all saying like, this is the path, like this is the way, and you have to change your whole life, and you have to be willing to admit that the way you're living is killing you.
Mhm.
That's kind of hard,
Yeah.
right? The way you're living may be killing you, right? And so if you're willing to look in the mirror, as I was, and say, you know what, this may be my fault, right? This may be my fault. And if it is my fault, that's actually good news. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. That's good news, because that means if I contributed to my disease, if I contributed to my illness, then I can contribute to my wellness, right? I've got to change the way I'm thinking and how I'm living my life, what I'm eating, what I'm doing, I've got to change everything. And you can't change everything overnight, but you can change your diet overnight, right? Like I said, and you can start exercising today. Like those are
Mhm.
two really big levers. And one day of eating well and one day of exercise, there's no benefit, right? But you start the process, right? One day at a time. And as you keep logging days, you develop this momentum, healing momentum.
Yeah.
And the hardest thing is getting started. But once you get the ball rolling, you start to get organized, you start to feel better, you get you rearrange your life and your routine, and things just become easier, right?
Yeah.
You figure out what you enjoy doing instead of the other things you were doing that were not healthy, like you figure out the foods you enjoy eating to replace the junk food that you used to eat. And so I got in the groove pretty quickly and was just, it didn't take long. I mean, a week or two, and I was feeling really, really good.
Wow.
And so from there, it just really was all about creating this simple daily routine that was sustainable, right? A
Mhm.
daily routine that was maximizing anti-cancer nutrition, minimizing stress, maximizing detoxification, right? And just having the best quality of life that I could in order to facilitate healing in my body. And so yeah, I just created that just simple routine, and just every day, I was just every day, every day, every day, taking care of myself in a way that I never had before. And I had blood work done every month, CT scans every 6 months for several years. I just kept a very close eye on things, and then I turned around and it had been 5 years, no cancer. And then around 6.5 year mark, I started a blog called Chris Beat Cancer. And I didn't have any big plans. I just thought, man, I should maybe share my story. I think there have to be people out there that need some hope, that need some encouragement, that might appreciate what I've been through and what I've learned. And little did I know, there was a lot of people that
Yeah.
were looking for help. I mean, there really weren't at that time. There really weren't a whole lot of websites out there. Chris Carr was out there, and like there weren't any other high profile cancer survivors that took a holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found an audience really quickly, or they found me, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And I started interviewing other people who'd healed, because once I put myself out there, people, were finding out about me, and I was just getting emails all the time. Hey, that's fantastic. I did the same thing you did. I healed breast cancer. I healed colon cancer. I healed lung cancer 20 years ago, like
Mm-hmm.
doing the same things you did. And so I'm like, oh, can I interview you or something? I don't, I was
Yeah.
just trying to figure out what to do with what I was learning. And so, I mean, I've interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of people who've healed all types and stages of cancer now. And they're on Chris Beat Cancer. They're on the podcast and the YouTube channel and the blog and all that. And I love doing it. I love doing it because, one story is like, okay, maybe he's lucky. Maybe it's a fluke, who knows, right? Who can say? But when
Yeah.
you gather all these incredible, against the odds survivor stories together, right? And you examine them, you see the common threads. And it just takes listening to a couple interviews of people who've healed cancer to realize that healing is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely.
And once you believe, this is the biggest challenge. I mean, this is the crux of why I do what I do, is to inspire that belief that healing is possible.
Mm-hmm. And
Because
the belief is
once you
everything.
believe it's possible, right, then you start thinking differently. You start
Mm-hmm.
thinking, okay, people have healed, healing's possible. What do I need to do to help myself heal? What did they do? And I need to do what they did, right? Like the best way to become successful is to emulate successful people.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
learn from successful people. How did you get up Mount Everest exactly?
Yeah.
Let me train, right? And study and prepare and follow the same path, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I want to climb Mount Everest, I'm not just going to fly to Nepal and like wing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and by the same token, how many people have to climb Mount Everest before you believe it's possible?
Mm-hmm. True.
Right? One. Is it super dangerous? Yeah. Do some people fail? Yes. Do some people die trying? Yes. It doesn't change the fact that it's possible, that people have done it and will continue to do it. So healing cancer is the same way. It's the same. And so now, here I am. I've written 3 books. Chris Beat Cancer is the first book, and that was published in 2018. So 15 years after my diagnosis, basically. So
Wow.
I've learned a lot, right? What I realized when I started the blog was I didn't know any science. I just knew I did it. Other people have done it, but I had no idea there were hundreds of thousands of nutritional science studies published on all of these incredible anti-cancer compounds in food.
Mm-hmm.
And just as soon as I started to dig into that, into the research, it was just so mind-blowing, right? That it's been right there, available to anyone for many decades,
Yeah.
and ignored by the conventional medical industry
Mm-hmm.
because there's no money in food.
Yeah.
There's no money in exercise. There's no money in stress reduction. There's no money in anything really holistic. Any holistic natural approach, there's no money in it. The money is in the drugs, right? Billions of dollars of profit per drug, right? So this is where the entire industry is focused, laser focused on new drugs, and especially to replace the drugs, the old drugs. As soon as their patent wears out, we need a new drug.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't work any better, we got to get a new drug out there as quick as possible. So, that's the problem. It's not the doctors. They're just part of a system that pays them really well and gives them very few tools to actually help people heal. Right. And so, but the great thing is now it's like we have this, we have the internet, right?
Yeah.
And we have social media and we have YouTube and, video platforms, and like we can learn from each other. And you can learn how to do anything online. And so learning how to help yourself and how to heal has never been easier. Although it's a little more complicated in some ways because there's too much information.
True. People get confused.
Yeah, people get confused. And so, and that was one of the reasons that I felt, that motivated me to write a book, to write my first book and to create a coaching program, is because I started to see over time being, really plugged into the health and wellness community online. I just started to see a lot of misinformation, just people promoting quackery, miracle cures, magic bullet, lotion potion, like all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, that stuff doesn't work. Like, weird diets, like, that I don't know anybody who's healed cancer with this diet, but people are writing articles saying you can cure cancer, eating a carnivore diet or some nonsense. It's like, so, as soon as I started to see that, I was like, okay, we got to help people with
You're like, we got to get in here.
Very simple, straightforward, path, right? The proven path that, again, for many, many, many decades, that radical remission survivors have followed. So that's basically my story in a nutshell. And here I am, like, I'm blessed to be able to have written 3 books. Like, the first book is called Chris Beat Cancer. That's my story, deep dive into the medical and cancer industries in that book. It's part story, part expose. And then I wrote a daily reader / devotional called Beat Cancer Daily.
Yeah.
And then my wife and I published an all plant-based cookbook last year called Beat Cancer Kitchen.
And that's all linked to all those down below. The books are all incredible. That's awesome. And your wife, it touched me so much in your book, Chris Beat Cancer, how she decided, because you decided you wanted to have a baby, and she decided to have a baby with you, even knowing at that time that you might not make it. I think that's just, wow, right?
I mean, it's the most courageous thing that anyone I know personally has ever done, taking that huge risk. She loved me so much that she was willing to start a family with me just a few months after my diagnosis, because once you get cancer, all of a sudden your priorities shift, right? Everything you cared about, you stop caring about, pretty much, right? The old adage is like, the healthy person cares about everything. The sick person only cares about one thing, right? Getting well. And for me, it was like, getting well was priority number 1, but then also I had this acute awareness of my own mortality. And it's like, what do I want out of life? If my life is not going to be, if my life could maybe be a short one, what do I want? And I wanted to be a dad. I just like, it was just high on the priority list. And so, my wife, we talked about it and she said, yes, she was willing to start trying to, to expand our family. And a year after I was diagnosed, we were back in the hospital and I was holding a beautiful baby girl.
Wow, amazing. I feel like so many blessings came out of this, and so much alchemy, so much gold. Do you feel like, in a sense, all of this like bad was sort of meant for a reason and there was a purpose behind it? For like maybe somebody watching out there who's going through maybe cancer, or maybe just a hard time in a relationship, or whatever that be, maybe just so they can see that maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel and this is happening for a reason.
Yeah, well, as a Christian, there's a verse in Romans that says, God works all things for the good of those who love him. All things, right? And the all things is the bad things, right? That God works all the bad things that happen in your life for your good. right? Doesn't mean they weren't bad things, right? But he works them for your good. That good comes out of them, right? And so, yeah, that verse was a huge encouragement to me in the early days of cancer, because I was like, okay, I'm just going to believe that God's going to work this for my good. Like, I don't like it, right? I'm scared. I'm terrified. Like, this stinks, you know? Like, don't want to be the cancer patient, you know? And he did. Yeah, he worked. I had so many blessings. I mean, yeah, my life is, I don't even know what it would be like. It would be a totally different life had I
Hmm.
not had cancer, right? It completely sent me on a different path. And that's what obstacles do, right? When obstacles come in your life, like there's only two options. Either you overcome it or they divert you onto a new path,
Hmm.
you know? And so when you think about it like that, it's like, you know what? This is an obstacle. This is a tragedy. It's adversity, but this is going to, and this is what I talk about in my books too. It's like, you have to start believing that your life after cancer is going to be better than it was before. Because it's easy to get trapped in that woe is me self-pity of like, my life was so much better before cancer and now it's over. Now it's ruined. Now it's,
Yeah.
in shambles. And I get that in the early days of a diagnosis, it definitely feels like that. But if you start to believe that, you know what, God's going to work this for my good, my life's going to be better as a result of this, not worse.
Hmm.
Things start changing for the better. And now I have an 18-year-old.
Wow, crazy. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that
Wow.
little baby is 18.
That's
She's going to
awesome.
college in the fall.
Wow, that's incredible. And do you
And
think looking back, I mean, I know if it was me, even now, I can't see it happening, but who knows? But even now, I would probably do the surgery like you did, even so, and then like take the natural route too. But looking back, are you still glad you had the surgery to remove it? Or looking back, would you just go raw right away and not do the surgery?
well, knowing what I know now, I would give myself more time before having surgery, but I'm not anti-surgery. I think it's really important that patients understand the risks of any procedure, and most don't. In fact, I have a free downloadable guide on chrisbeatcancer.com. It's called 20 Questions for Your Oncologist. And this is super important because if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get all the information and you can't make a good decision. And doctors do not tell you the whole story. They don't. Like, you have to ask very specific, deliberate questions. And I mean, like, one of them, it seems so obvious and most patients don't ask, is, will this treatment cure my cancer?
Hmm.
Yes or no? You'd be shocked at how squirmy doctors get when you ask them that question, how uncomfortable they get when you ask them yes or no. Are you going to cure my cancer or not, right, with this treatment? Is there evidence? Is there proof this will cure me? So there's a bunch more questions like that, depending on the type of cancer and stage. So with surgery, like, some surgeries are very low risk, some surgeries are very high risk. So it really does depend on
Mm.
what type of cancer it is and where it is in the body and how big the tumor is. And there's a lot of factors. But anyway, yeah, I mean, surgery is a way to get a huge tumor burden out of the body, but it's very rarely curative, especially if it's past stage 2. And so knowing that, I think a lot of patients either get false hope that the surgery cured them, or many of them are recommended into chemo because the doctors know the surgery didn't cure them.
Hmm.
So, surgery comes with risks and whatever. But yeah, knowing what I know now, if I discovered a lesion or a lump or bump or tumor, whatever, I would just double down, go hardcore, monitor my progress, and give myself time to heal
Hmm.
before being rushed into something that potentially life-changing or life-threatening. It's like when they're removing body parts and important organs, like, you really should pause, right? Before you're letting doctors cut body parts out and
Hmm.
organs out. It's like people are too quick to cut off their breasts and cut out their thyroids and stuff like that, when they just don't realize that, yeah, you could heal this, if you're willing to be patient and change your whole life, that these conditions can heal.
Hmm. And I know you've studied the history of cancer a lot. I think that came up a bit in your book, which I found was interesting. And do you know when the first documented case was? And what do you think is causing most of the cancer today?
Well, I don't know when the first documented case was, but there are definitely, they've found tumors in mummies, right? Like, and so cancer has been in the human condition and in animals for thousands of years or whatever. But there's been an explosion of cancer since the Industrial Revolution. All right. That was a defining time in human history when we started factories, right?
Mm-hmm.
We started building factories. We started working in factories. We started working with toxic materials, right? Like aluminum and lead, smelting, producing food on an industrial scale, industrial agriculture, producing plastics, right? And you think about all these factories with soot and toxic chemicals that humans are breathing and, ingesting. And so, yeah, I mean, it's well documented that cancers really started to become more common in, the 1800s, roughly, the Industrial Revolution. So, and the incidence of cancer has just continued to climb, right? There's very few cancers that we see rolling off in terms of incidence. But here's what's important. The number one cause of cancer is smoking. So there was a huge surge in the 20th century of cancer just from smoking, because everybody smoked, right? Before we knew smoking caused cancer, like everyone smoked, everybody. Smoking is now declining rapidly. And guess what? So is lung cancer.
Wow.
It's great. The incidence of lung cancer and lung cancer death is dropping fast every year because less and less and less people smoke. So that's great. The number two cause of cancer, which will soon be number one, is obesity. Something like 40% of cancers are related to obesity. Think about that. That's like half, right?
Unreal.
Almost half. And it could be more than half, but the latest figure, and statistics are subjective, and there's different researchers with different opinions statistically, but point is, the latest figure I saw was 40%. It's generally accepted by the major international cancer organizations that, obesity is the second leading cause. And the reason, because it's hard, why is that? When you're overweight, excess body fat is a burden to the whole system, right? And your body is made up of a number of interconnected systems, which we all learned in school. You got your muscular skeletal system, you have your immune system, your digestive system, your nervous system, right? All the systems, and they all work together. And so obesity, when you have excess body fat, there's several things happening at once. One, fat cells produce inflammatory molecules that promote inflammation. And anytime you have inflammation, that's the first step in a sort of like degradation of health, leading to cancer. When you're overweight or obese, the excess fatty acids circulating in your bloodstream actually clog up your immune cells and make them slow and sluggish. This is why, in 2020 and 2021, that thing that was going around, obese people were some of the most vulnerable to a life-threatening infection, right? And being hospitalized and dying because of the immunosuppression and inflammation that is just part and parcel with being overweight and obese. So again, I'm not fat shaming. We're just talking about biology here. Okay. Yeah. It's just like when your body's in that state, it's not optimal for your health. Like you can feel good about yourself and people can call you beautiful and that's fine, right? But what matters more is what's happening on the inside, and are you going down the road of disease? And if you are, believe me, you're not going to like it when you get there. So those are the two factors, inflammation and immunosuppression, that obesity is how obesity promotes cancer. What the good news is like everyone can lose weight. I've never met a person that can't lose weight if they're willing to change what they eat and start exercising. And really, you can lose weight just by changing what you eat, right? You don't even have to exercise, but exercise burns more calories. So, you can accelerate the process if you're willing to exercise daily, even if it's just walking 30 minutes a day. Like, do not underestimate walking. There was a wonderful study on breast cancer patients that basically they found that breast cancer patients who ate 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day on average and walked 30 minutes per day on average had a 50% decreased risk of recurrence after 9 years. After 9 years. Think about that. That is so doable. 5 servings of fruits and vegetables in one day. That's like one meal
Yeah,
of all vegetables. That's a giant salad.
exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or a big smoothie.
Yeah, a big
Uh,
smoothie.
30 minutes of walking per day, like, man, like, unless you're bedridden, right? You can do it. If you're in a wheelchair, you can still wheel yourself, right? You're
Yeah,
still exercising.
true.
So that's just a fantastic study. And by the way, I didn't eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. I was eating between 15 and 20 servings of fruits and vegetables every single day, between eating giant salads, fresh juices, fruit smoothies, fresh fruit. Like, I was just pumping it in, right? Pumping in the nutrition. And my philosophy was, it was pretty, I'd just say my criteria was, if there was some potential benefit and there was no risk of harm and I could find it and afford it, I would do it. So whether it's food or supplements or herbs or some type of alternative therapy, like I did IV vitamin C treatments. That was one thing I did. I wanted to do hyperbaric oxygen, and there was a place in Memphis that did it, but it was expensive and I never did it because I just felt like, I'm spending all my money on
Yeah.
organic food and supplements. And so I had a very simple criteria, and I didn't worry about like, well, what if the supplements don't work? It's fine, right? I wanted just to give my body an abundance of vitamins, minerals, enzymes, antioxidants, and the thousands of phytonutrients in plant food, and
Mhm.
let my body use what it needed. And, whatever it doesn't need it, I'm going to pee it or poop it out. It's fine.
Yeah, and were there any foods that you felt were, like, extra potent for killing the
Y-
cancer, like,
Yes.
extra powerful?
At the time, I didn't know this, but I learned later after, really studying nutritional science, the most powerful anti-cancer vegetables are garlic, onions, and leeks.
Wow.
Garlic, onions, and leeks. Those are the top 3. Garlic's number 1, 100%, hands down. It's like almost untouchable in terms of its anti-cancer power.
Wow.
Uh, but you can't live on garlic, onions, and leeks. It's not enough calories, right? So rounding out the top 10 is the cruciferous family: broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, bok choy. Well, what did I just describe? That's a salad,
Mhm.
right? And so that's what I ate every single day. That's what's on the cover of my cookbook, Beat Cancer Kitchen, is what I call the giant cancer fighting salad. It's it's broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage, onions, mushrooms, avocado, sprouts, nuts and seeds, and tons of herbs and spices like oregano, curry powder, cayenne pepper, apple cider vinegar, olive oil. I mean, it's so delicious and savory, and it fills you up, and gives you tons of energy, and it's just loaded with all these incredible anti-cancer nutrients.
Mhm.
So so that was my signature meal every day for lunch and dinner, every
Wow.
single day, which some people might think, oh, I couldn't eat the same thing every day. Believe me, it wasn't hard. It was delicious. It was easy to make. Salad is fast food.
Yeah, it's
You
great, and
know?
what the more you eat it, the more you want it, and then you fall in love with those foods.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so
And
I
yeah.
did.
And did you I know when I went raw, I mean, I initially went into it to try reverse health problems, and it did. But that was just a small part of it. I found a whole new world. I felt like myself for the first time in my life. I felt happier than I'd ever felt. And so many amazing things happened. I was led into my purpose, all these things. So did you find that the raw foods path at the time went beyond just healing? Like there were other surprises in how you felt or how it changed your life?
Well, I kind of mentioned this earlier about, the raw food diet being a gateway drug to health and wellness, because once I changed my diet, it sort of unlocked this potential that I didn't know I had, right? I realized, wow, like, what else can I do? And then I started changing more things, right, in my life. And so I eventually started, once I sort of got, okay, I got the diet, I'm taking all these supplements and herbs and stuff, whatever, who knows if they're helping, but I'll take them. I'm exercising every day, and then I'm doing all the physical stuff, right? And then the next phase of life change is the mental, emotional, and spiritual stuff. And so again, I mentioned this earlier about reading, all these testimonies and reading from doctors and experts and healers, and this idea that stress causes cancer, was a pervasive idea, at least in the holistic health world, that stress causes disease, stress causes cancer. And so I started sort of going down that rabbit hole and trying to understand, like, okay, what do I need to do? How can I help myself? Like, how can I not be stressed? And so I'm going to explain it simply, but I go into a lot more detail in my book, but my first book and my second book. But stress is negative emotion, right? Negative emotions, negative thoughts produce negative emotions that produces stress in your body. What are negative thoughts? When I say them, you'll know, right? You know what they are. Anger, bitterness, resentment, unforgiveness. Those are all sort of intertwined, right? Guilt and shame. And by the way, those are all based in the past, right? Those are all emotions that are rooted in things that happened in the past, either things that people did to you or things you did. In the present, negative emotions would be stuff like jealousy and envy of others, insecurities, prejudice, stuff like that. And you can even be resentful of people in your present, right? And jealousy fosters resentment. And then there's negative emotions that are future-based, which that would be fear, worry, and anxiety. Worrying about the future. What's going to happen? And so many of us, we're just bouncing between being angry, and resentful or guilty about our past, being envious of something or someone in our present, being worried about the future, right? Like, we're just bouncing back and forth between these negative emotional states. And so mindfulness is a term that I think a lot of people understand now, but that's like being aware of what you're thinking about, like catching yourself. And so I started catching myself being envious. And, if I'm being envious and resentful towards someone that I'm perceiving has some advantage in life or some privilege I don't have or whatever, I would just catch myself and be like, okay, you're being jealous, you're being envious. Let's just stop, right? Let's just stop. I'm just going to stop myself, right? You can stop yourself in the middle of a bad habit, right? And these are bad thought habits. Like, if you start biting your fingernails, you can stop in the middle of doing it, right? You'd be like, oh no, I'm stopping. I'm breaking this bad habit. So that's the same mentality. It's like when you start thinking in ways that you shouldn't, you can stop. And so when the fear and worry would creep in, I would just catch myself and just give it to God and say, God, I trust you. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm just giving you my fear.
Wow.
I trust you. Just show me what to do and show me what I need to change. Right? That was my just continual prayer. Right? It wasn't a one-time thing. It was multiple times a day, every day. I was constantly just giving my fear to God and saying, I'm not going to let this steal my joy. Right? I trust you. And then the big thing, the most powerful thing that I did, and that I think every person can and should do, is dealing with the stuff from your past. Forgiving the people who've hurt you, every single one. And I made a decision to do that. Like, okay, I'm going to forgive every person who has ever hurt me until there is no one left, right? There's no one left. Like, every person, doesn't matter how big or how small of the thing. It could be one kid who said one mean thing to me on the playground, right? I'm forgiving them. And so the way to do this, and this is something that people struggle with. It's hard. Like, I get it. Because we don't want to forgive, because I think we haven't been taught what forgiveness really is. And we think that forgiveness just means that we're saying what a person did to us was okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not, like, at all. Forgiveness is a choice. And what you're doing is you're choosing to let go of the pain and the anger and the bitterness and resentment. And for me, I would just, the process of forgiveness is, look, you just sit down quietly with no distractions. You can be in a meditative state or a prayerful state or with your eyes open. It doesn't really matter. But you just sit quietly and start thinking through your life and just say, okay, who's hurt me? And you let those thoughts come up, right? And you just, maybe it helps to just go chronologically, right? Think as far back as you can remember and start with the mean kids on the playground.
Mm-hmm.
And as those memories come up, right? You just remember, okay, this kid said this to me. Okay, God, you know what they did? You know how I feel about it? That really hurt. That really hurt me at the time. I still feel, I can still feel that, that embarrassment or pain or whatever, humiliation, insult. I still, I remember that pain, but I'm choosing to forgive them and I'm letting it go. They're all yours, right? You can deal with them. I'm not holding on to resentment or bitterness anymore. I'm just letting it go. That's the choice, right? That's what forgiveness is. Doesn't mean what they did wasn't cool, right? It wasn't cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So one by one, I just went through all those memories and forgave every person who's ever hurt me. And I didn't do it in one sitting. I did it, just over time. I just kept digging through, and you're going through life and you just have some random memory and you're like, oh, wow, hadn't thought about that. Okay, let's deal with it, right? I need to forgive that person. Because, we bury those painful memories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wants to open that filing cabinet.
No,
Right?
no.
Right? Where the painful memories are. And so, but I'm telling you, gosh, forgiveness frees you from a prison of pain.
I think
That's
it's
what
so
it does.
important.
Like,
Yeah.
you have the key to the lock, right? You can unlock the door and let yourself out. And when that expression we've all heard, like, oh, that person's got a lot of baggage. What is baggage, right? It's resentment. It's anger. It's bitterness. Like, it's when you're holding on to pain that people have caused you. Yeah, it's a weight on you. It's baggage, and you can put the bags down, right? Forgiveness is putting the bags down, walking away from them. And so the other powerful thing is, if you are a praying person, what I would do is I would say, God, I forgive them. Like, they're all yours, and I'm asking you to bless them. I really would prefer that you didn't, right?
Yeah.
Right? But I'm asking anyway, right? I'm asking you because I'm asking you to be merciful, because I need mercy, right? I need it too. I don't want to be a hypocrite here. I
No.
need mercy. They need mercy. I'm asking you to bless them. And man, I'm telling you, when you pray that way, Jesus said, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. This is good advice.
It's the
Okay.
best advice. Yeah.
There's no better advice. And when you pray that way, God heals your heart. If you have a sick heart, you're going to have a sick body,
Yeah.
period.
Wow.
And you've got to heal your heart. I've seen people do all the healthy stuff and not get well because they wouldn't forgive. They wouldn't let go of anger and bitterness and resentment. It was just rotting them to the core, right? Those are toxic emotions. They're poisonous emotions. And by the way, the sickness isn't just between your ears, right? Like, stress produces a physical response in your body, and stress hormones suppress your immune system and promote inflammation. Remember what I said about obesity? It's the same pro-cancerous process.
Mm-hmm.
Stress does the same thing. And by the way that so many of us cope with stress is we self-medicate with unhealthy lifestyle choices, right? Right? We self-medicate with food. That leads to obesity.
Mm-hmm.
We self-medicate with cigarettes, the number one cause of cancer. Alcohol, major cause of cancer. Pharmaceuticals, many of them cause cancer, right? And other bad choices that have compounding stress effects, like, gambling or spending more money than you have, or pornography, right? So, like, all the ways that we cope with our stresses, instead of dealing with our stresses, instead of forgiving, we're just self-medicating to get our mind off of
And I
the
think a
pain.
lot of people think like they can't imagine their life without those things. Like maybe they watch this video or see you or see these types of videos and they think, oh, I want to do that. I would love to change my life, but I just can't imagine my life without these things. My life would suck without drinking or smoking or these foods. Do you have any advice for people? Like, to me, I used to drink every day. My life is so much better like this. I don't miss alcohol at all. And I used to think life would suck without alcohol. Do you have any tips or advice for somebody who's watching, who wants to get a hold on these things, take control, take a healthier path, and put these habits behind them, but they're having a hard time getting a grasp on it all?
My challenge would be, listen to what's coming out of your mouth, right? Listen to the things that you're saying and and listen, pay attention to your beliefs. because, and consider the possibility that maybe what you believe isn't true. You know, maybe your life would be better without alcohol. You know what I mean? Maybe your life would be better without junk food. Like, I get it. These are stimulants, right? These are stimulant. Alcohol is a stimulant and a depressant, but right? But it is a drug. Food is a drug, especially junk food, right? So I get that there's pleasure that comes from those foods, but it's not lasting. And so my challenge is, look, take as a personal experiment, maybe your life will be a lot better. I think it will. I
Yeah,
think
me
it'll be
too.
a lot better, right? I'm certain, I'm confident it will. But and my encouragement is, don't wait until you have a crisis, right? Don't wait until you have a crisis to change your life. It's a lot harder in a crisis in some ways because there's all this fear and urgency and everything's, there's this whirlwind of medical treatments and all kinds of stuff. It's so much easier to change now, right? To go down the
Mhm.
prevention path than when you're in this chaotic cancer diagnosis, calamity of a situation. So, but I get it. I just totally understand. Like, I've heard people say all those kinds of things. I never thought I could give up meat. I never thought I could stop smoking. I never thought I could stop drinking. But those things are not good for you. But back to that, closing that loop on what I was saying earlier, it's like, if you don't address the root cause of your pain, you're going to need a medication. And so it's a lot easier to give up your bad habits when you no longer need that medication. See what I'm saying? If you've got a lot of pain from your past and you're drinking every night to dull the pain, right? Well, if you forgive and let all those people go, you don't need the medication anymore, right? Because you don't have the pain,
Mhm.
And so, look, I can't make any money selling forgiveness, okay? Like, it costs you nothing to do it, and I gain nothing from you doing it, right? But I'm telling you, it's one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. One of the most powerful things, without a doubt. And this is why so many people struggle with breaking their bad habits, right? Because their bad habits are medication for their pain, right? For mental and emotional pain, usually. Sometimes it's for physical pain, right? Like pain pills, but generally it's mental and emotional pain. And they have stress in their life that they're not dealing with. And this is their way to, just check out and get some relief from the pressure, right? From all the built up stress pressures. And so, like, what we teach in our community, our coaching program, which is called Square One, is like, you've got to make an action plan. Like, you've got to make a list. What is stressing me out? Like, what are my biggest sources of stress in my life? Like, write them down, right? Because now you're just writing a to-do list. What are my biggest sources of stress? Are they people? Are they commitments, obligations? Is it my work, right? Maybe it's all those things, right? Is it my relationships with X, Y, and Z? That would be people, obviously. And then you go down the list and say, okay, what's the solution, right? So you got problem and solution. It's 2 columns, problem and solution. And the solution is usually pretty easy, right? It may not be pleasant. You may not want to do it, but most solutions are usually pretty easy. And so, like, if it's a stressful job, it's like, I've got to get another job, right? It's
Yeah.
a simple solution. Maybe not easy. It's going to take some work to figure that out, but like, I got to get out of there, right? And I've heard people say, like, my job was killing me,
Mhm.
right? My job was killing me. I am so glad I left. Lots of cancer patients have told me that, or it's relationships that are so toxic, and you're like, I've got to get away from this person, right?
Mhm.
This person is abusive, right? Or this person is manipulative and a narcissist and is an energy vampire and
Mhm.
just draining me. Like, I've just got to get away. Like, I've just got to just end it, walk away. And some relationships are easier to end and some are hard, right? But
Yeah.
anyway, working down that list of, like, addressing your stresses head on is so powerful, right? That, again, making those changes take time, but it's worth it, right? To free yourself and to, again, get yourself out of this state of fight or flight. And
Mhm.
this is our problem. So many of us are in what I call fight or flight light, which is the day in, day out chronic stress. It's not the I'm being attacked or chased by a tiger every day. It's not that level. It's not high stress. Some people it is, but it's enough stress to be affecting your health. to be suppressing your immune system, to be promoting inflammation, and to be driving you to self-medicate in unhealthy ways.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can make a forgiveness list and work down that list, right? And then you can make another list of like, okay, what's bothering me, what's stressing me out right now in my life, like, and what can I do to change it? I got to be my own problem solver. Like, we're really good at solving other people's problems, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
like I got to start solving my own problems. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I got to focus on me here.
Yeah.
And so these are just powerful tools that cancer taught me.
Wow.
I mean, everything that I'm saying is things that I did, and things that anyone can do. Like, I don't have any special degrees or diplomas or an intellect. Like, you don't need any of that to change what you eat, to exercise, to forgive. Like, you don't need any special skills.
Yeah. And what did having cancer teach you about letting go of control and surrendering?
Well, earlier when I mentioned giving my fear and worry to God, yeah, there was sort of like the way I looked at it was, there were things in my life I could control and there are things I can't. And acknowledging, this kind of goes back to the AA thing. Like, give me, what's the prayer, the AA prayer? Give me the grace to control the things I can and the
Mm-hmm.
wisdom to know the difference. Or I should know that better. But yeah, having that very clear separation of like, these things I can control. I can control what I'm eating.
Mm-hmm.
I can control my daily routine, what I'm, exercising. I can control how I'm thinking, how I'm acting and reacting. I'm going to control those things. There's things I can't control. God, I just trust you with the rest, right? Can't control a lot of other stuff. Can't control other people, like, I can't control. There's so much I can't control, and I just decided I'm not going to worry about what I can't control. I can just focus on today, right? Can't change the past, can't control the future, but I can control today. And by the way, the decisions you make today are creating your life tomorrow. So you can certainly influence your future with your daily choices. I'm not a fatalist. I don't think we're just
Mm-hmm.
pre-programmed to live a certain life and then die. I think we have free will and that our choices have consequences, good or bad, right? And so when you start making good choices, you reap a harvest of good fruit down the road. And that's great, right? That's great. It's like, everybody knows if you go to the gym one time, you get no benefit. You get sore, but you got no benefit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to the gym 3 days a week, after a couple months, you're stronger. Like, you're noticeably stronger, right? It was the consistent effort, right? Just of continuing to do something good for yourself that built you up and increases your strength or your endurance or stamina or whatever. So this is a principle that's universal. It's like, when you start making good choices in a short time in the future, your life's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're stronger, you're healthier, you're fitter, you're more positive, you have a better outlook, you have less stress. It's just, again, it's all about the day, like the daily choices.
Yeah. So
And
true.
to me, I
Well,
think that makes it easy for people.
mm-hmm. Me too. Well
When you realize,
said.
like, look, you can't change your whole life, your whole future, but you can change what you do, what your daily routine looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And small change adds up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It does.
Small change adds up. Like, it's like putting a little money in the savings account every week. It adds up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I'm wondering, I was thinking too, I know people were asking my viewers, what do you think in your case caused your cancer?
Well, who knows, right?
Yeah.
Nobody ever knows for sure. But diet is a huge contributor. Hey, let me answer it this way. Up to 90% of cancers are caused by 3 factors: diet, lifestyle, and environment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Only a small percent of cancers are genetic. And even of the genetic cancers, we know, thanks to the field of study called epigenetics, that diet, lifestyle, and environment influence how genes express themselves, right? So diet, lifestyle, and environment can turn on cancer promoting genes in your
Mm-hmm.
body, and they can also turn them off.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was eating a standard American diet, tons of meat and dairy, tons of fast food, tons of processed food, tons of junk food. I was doing that. I had a lot of stress in my life. I had a lot of resentment and anger, and I was insecure and jealous and envious and competitive. Like, even though I was a Christian and I was like trying to be a good person and live a good life and make good choices, generally speaking, I still was just a mess, mentally and emotionally, because I'd never been really given the tools to deal with my thought life. And so, yeah, the stress factor was definitely there. I didn't really have smoking, alcohol, drugs. That wasn't a factor for me. I mean, I smoked in high school. I don't think that was enough to give me colon cancer.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah,
20s. I
for
doubt it.
sure.
Maybe, who
Yeah.
knows? But I didn't drink much. Yeah, and I did some recreational drugs in high school and college, but again, that to me probably wasn't the factor, but could have been some environmental toxic exposure. So what I've found is I think for most people, there's rarely one cause. Cancer is the convergence of numerous health destroying factors, right, that persist in a person's life over a period of time, 10 years, let's say, could be over decades, right? But 5 to 10 years of, high stress, poor diet, and environmental factors, toxic stuff, yeah, that can do it.
Wow,
That,
crazy. So true. It's
yeah,
made me realize because, I eat the cleanest diet in the world, literally. I take such great care of myself, but there's just been something I've had such a hard time letting go of with somebody with forgiveness and like anger. And it's not like me. Like that wasn't how I was in the past, especially when I first went raw. So I'm going to try your exercises that you gave. So I want to thank you for that. And I just feel like it's like almost like God speaking through you to me because I've really had a hard time with like letting go of some things with somebody.
I'm so
So
glad.
you're right. It's crazy. That can cause, especially after long term, a lot of problems. And it's not fun to live that way. Really like we're loving beings, and it's not close to God to live that way. We need more God in our life, more light, more love. And it just hurts us holding on to things. It's like, it's
It
like they
does.
say, or like you were saying, like you think you're hurting the other person by holding on to it, or it's like punishing them or something, but you're just hurting yourself. You're just throwing it back at yourself.
That's right. I'm so glad
Yeah.
you said that. Yeah, the old adage is like, bitterness is like drinking poison and hoping it, hurts someone else,
Yeah.
right? It's just hurting you. And, we need forgiveness. We all need forgiveness. And that's why we need to give forgiveness too, because in order for us to be worthy of it, we have to be willing to do it. And yeah, and the nice thing is for anybody, for you or anybody, it's like, look, forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to be friends.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't have to hang out, don't have to talk to
Mm-hmm.
them, right? They don't even have to know that you forgave them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is something you're doing in your heart. Like it's between you and God, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're letting it go, you're forgiving. And if those feelings start creeping back in, right? You just have to catch yourself in that moment and go, no, you know what? I forgave them, right? I forgave them on April 20th, 2023. And forgiveness, by the way, is like a healthy diet. It only works if you stick with it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Wow. I
So it's
love
like,
that.
I made the decision, I'm sticking with it,
I love it.
right? I'm
Well,
sticking with it.
yeah, and
And
speaking of that, sorry, go ahead.
I was just say, if people, if they continue to offend you and insult you and hurt you, you just keep forgiving. Like, just keep
Mhm.
letting it go, let it go,
Yeah.
let it go, let it go. Be quick to forgive. That's one other thing I've learned. It's like, I've been on the internet as a public cancer survivor and patient advocate for almost 13 years. And people have just said the meanest things ever to me. I mean, really mean, cruel, nasty things, right? And, it just taught me to forgive. you know, I just realized like I got to practice what I preach. I forgive all those I have forgiven every person that I've consciously been aware, that has said mean things to me online. And I just learned to be
Yeah.
quick to forgive, right?
That's
Just
great.
like,
I deal with that too. And do you think you have to put in the work with that? Like you make a conscious effort to put in the work to forgive people constantly? Like you do those exercises, laying in bed or whatever, forgiving them like consciously to just let it go?
for me, I just do it once and I'm done.
Yeah, that's
You know,
amazing.
I do it once and I'm done. But I understand, like in the past, yes, there were people who hurt me really bad. That there was a sort of short season that was very intense where I had to keep, just reminding myself, I forgive them. I'm letting it go. I'm not going to pick it back up. Like, right. Cause the pain was fresh, you know what I mean? And so I would just continually, when it would creep in, I would just catch myself and go, I'm not going to let the bitterness steal my joy. I'm not going to, dwell on this resentment and the injustice, right, that this person has done to me and whatever it was. Like, I'm just not going there. God, I forgive them. They're all yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're all yours. They're all yours. They're all yours. Like, so there have definitely been seasons where I had to do that for specific instances, but generally it's like, yeah, I just keep it pretty light. Somebody's
Yeah.
mean to me, or what, do they cut me off in traffic? They give me the bird, they're rude or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm just like, you know what? God bless them. I forgive them. I don't know what's going on in that person's life, but you know, I'm not going to
Yeah.
let it. I'm just not going to hold on to it.
Good. And I know you're giving the metaphor about a healthy lifestyle and sticking to it. So I'm wondering, how has your lifestyle been over the years and how do you currently eat in a day? A lot of my viewers were asking, have you stuck to it or have you changed it up a bit? And I think you've probably stuck to eating pretty healthy just based on how you look. I think you look, I was just thinking you must be around 45, no?
That's true.
You look great.
Thank
So
you.
whatever you're doing, it's working.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I still eat a plant-based diet. I'm not 100% raw. I've found over, lots of experimentation that eating some cooked veggies is my body really needs the calories and it helps me because I have such a high metabolism naturally
Yeah.
that it's easier for me to hit my sort of calorie goals if I'm eating some cooked food. But like what I ate today was a very typical day for me. Giant bowl of oatmeal for breakfast with blueberries, with flaxseed, chia seed, hemp seed, cinnamon, allspice, and turmeric powder. And usually I'll sweeten it with maybe, well, again, fresh fruit. I like mix it up. Like, might be blueberries, it might be goji berries, it might be apricots. It could be fresh or dried fruit. And then lunch was a giant smoothie in the Vitamix. It was like 2 cups. Today it was 2 cups of blueberries, 2 cups of mangoes, a ton of spinach. Probably 4 or 5 handfuls of spinach, almonds and walnuts. Again, hemp seed, because for me, the calories and the protein, I need more than, I'm just very active. And, blend that up. And that's a big 32 to 40 ounce smoothie situation. And then dinner most nights is some type of cooked veggie meal. And plugging the cookbook, we have a cookbook called Beat Cancer Kitchen, which has all these amazing recipes like you will love. They're so good, so delicious and easy to make. And it's a full color cookbook. So like you can see the pictures in there.
Yeah, that's the
They'll
best.
make you want, the pictures will make you want to make the food. So yeah, it's like, at night it might be, something simple, just like black beans and collard greens and some new potatoes or sweet potatoes or something, or could be something like more extravagant, like a white bean soup or cabbage steaks or a giant salad, So yeah, just keep it really simple.
Yeah.
I just eat a ton of fruits and vegetables, tons of plant food, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And just two
Yeah,
more quick questions and then I'll let you go. But a lot of my
sure.
viewers were asking, do you believe in fasting? And did you do
Yes,
any fasting when you were reversing your cancer?
definitely. Definitely. A lot of juice fasting and water fasting for sure. Still, I'm a huge proponent of fasting. Fasting regenerates your immune system. It's so powerful. So powerful. Between 3 and 5 day water fast is incredible for immune regeneration. And old and damaged immune cells die off during a fast. And then your body ramps up the production of new, healthy immune cells that are much better at fighting off disease and cancer cells. And so that's very good. Of course, when you fast, you detoxify, you burn through body fat. I mean, all kinds of wonderful, wonderful things happen in the body when you fast. So yeah, love
Amazing.
fasting. In fact, I did a 3-day water fast, 3 or 4 weeks ago. So
Wow.
yep, still do that. What was the other
Awesome.
question?
Okay. And yeah, a lot of my viewers were asking, if you were diagnosed today, what steps would you take to begin the healing? Or like, is there anything different you'd do if it were to happen now? Like looking back, you know?
Hmm. I would probably start it with an extended water fast.
Wow.
Probably the first thing I would do. Extended water fast. It'd probably be at least 5 days, but maybe 5 to 10. So I would go pretty hardcore on water. Juice fasting is awesome too. And then back on just all raw,
Mm-hmm.
all raw food. There's an incredible cocktail that's called lemon garlic extract. And if you go to chrisbeatcancer.com, just type in lemon garlic and you'll find this recipe. But they did a team of researchers did a study and found that they could basically eliminate tumors in rats with lemon garlic extract.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, really remarkable. You remember earlier I said garlic's the #1 anti-cancer vegetable. Well, lemons are really high up there too. They're obviously a fruit. And they found that there's a synergy when they combine lemon and garlic that it makes it even more potent. And so the most potent anti-cancer fruits are berries. Lemon's a berry. So all the berries are just awesome. But anyway, so yeah, I'd probably consuming a lot of lemon garlic extract. And then just, doing what I did before. Like I would ramp up on the juicing. Now I probably have a juice a day, right? On average, maybe 1 juice a day. And I would go back to drinking 64 ounces of vegetable juice every day, which is what I did when I had cancer. So yeah, I would just up my game, that's a healing routine. It's not necessarily it's not like a normal lifestyle, healthy lifestyle routine. That is an aggressive healing routine. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would just get back on that. That's
Yeah.
the first thing I would do.
Yeah, smart. And what are your thoughts on fruit? Some people say like even fruit sugar will feed cancer. What do you think about that?
Fruit's awesome.
Yeah.
I love fruit. And the idea that sugar feeds cancer is a very oversimplified and reductionist idea. And like, there's no way an apple is the equivalent of a pile of white sugar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, there's no way that's the same. It's not.
Yeah.
Like, fruit has sugar in it, and the sugar is delightful, right? When you eat it, your taste buds light up, your brain lights up, and and your brain and body go, this is good, right? This is good. And what are you getting when you eat fruit? You're getting, yes, a delightful, sweet taste. You're getting sugar that feeds every cell in your body. Every cell runs on sugar. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
cancer cells. Every cell needs sugar. So like, why not get the best source of sugar, which is from plant food? So fruit's great for that. And then you get water, you get fiber, you get good bacteria. A lot of people, they never think about this or talk about it, but the best source of probiotics is raw food. It's fruit, which everybody eats raw, right? And raw veggies.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting good bacteria from fruit, water and fiber, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, antioxidants, and then like all these unique anti-cancer compounds like limonene in lemons, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
pectin in apples, malic acid in apples. So ellagic acid in blueberries, anthocyanins in raspberries, and lots of other berries. So it's like, I want those compounds in my body, and the sugar, that's just like the Trojan horse. You know what I mean? It's like, if cancer cells are opening up to get sugar from fruit, well, guess what? They're getting a lot of anti-cancer and antioxidant compounds right
Yeah,
there with it.
absolutely.
So yeah, like in our community and coaching program and stuff, like there's no limitation on fruit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we just tell folks that, like, you know, you're making vegetable juice, drinking fresh vegetable juice all day, eating giant salads, and enjoy as much fresh fruit as you want, or fruit smoothies. Eat as much as you need to be satisfied, and then repeat the next day.
Yeah. Well, amazing. This has been so incredible. It's one of my favorites. I think you're so
Thank you.
incredible and so humble, so down to earth, so relatable, and so inspiring. And I'm wondering to end off, excuse me, for your legacy, say if you could leave behind 3 things, whether it be a quote, a book, 3 pieces of information, any 3 things, or any information, anything to share, what would that be? And if you could let everybody know as well where to find you, and I'll link it down below along with all your books and anything as well. And everybody go follow Chris. He's awesome.
Thank you. Well, I've got 3 books written, so I guess that's legacy already,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. True.
Yeah, I've got that. I'm very proud of those books and very happy they exist. And 3 is a good number. I have a few other book ideas, but I'm at the moment I'm really happy with 3. And yeah, I mentioned this earlier, and I'll just repeat it because I think it's really important. You have to believe that healing is possible. I call it the beat cancer mindset. And this is the most important component of it, right? Is the belief that healing is possible. Because once you believe it's possible, then you start thinking differently about your life and your options. And usually when people believe healing is possible, then they start changing their life. So everything that I do, you could even say my entire legacy, everything I do can be summarized with that one intention, right? To help anyone who is looking discover that healing is possible. And then from there, it's like, hey, then you just got a wide open world of possibilities, right? And people to learn from and things to implement and incorporate into your life. So yeah, I'm trying to give hope and inspiration, encouragement, and practical action steps that people can just take to start improving their life and improving their health and healing. So that's definitely the legacy. I'm very clear on why I do what I do. And I'm so blessed and thankful that I'm here to do it, and that it has taken over my life, and then I can spend all my working hours doing it instead of, I was in real estate for a long time. And so my time was divided for many years between my passion, which is this, and my profession, which was real estate. But now this is my passion and my profession, and it's just awesome. So people can connect with me, chrisbeatcancer.com, and on my site, which is a free site, there are hundreds of interviews. Like it's too many, I understand, but you can type in, breast cancer or lung cancer or leukemia or lymphoma and watch interviews with people who've healed. You can scroll through the interviews and watch all these incredible interviews with doctors and experts that have so much wisdom to share on health and healing, like Dr. Bernie Siegel or, oh man, Dr. Walter Longo. I mean, there's so many. I've interviewed a ton of those kind of folks. And it's it's a free site, free resource. Everything you need to know is there. I have books that condenses things into a simpler, into a simpler path. So you don't, if you just I need to get straight to it, then read my first book. That's straight to just the facts. Like, what do I need to know? What do I need to do? It's right there in the book,
And
then
it's
we
on
do have
Audible too. It's good on Audible too. It's on both.
Thank you. I did read it. It is my voice on Audible. And then the other, Chris Beat Cancer is my handle on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. So I'm easy to find there. And we're constantly sharing, encouraging and inspirational videos and content and stuff there. And then we have a private support community, a coaching program. It's called Square One. So if you want to really go hardcore, and I have a 10 module video program, and we just, to teach you exactly how to change your life, how to do everything I did, and we have a private online support community that's a part of that. So you can connect with other people that have healed cancer or are on the healing path. So that's really, I just love it so much. It's just such a cool thing that's come together. It started in 2016, so it's been going for 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you go to chrisbeatcancer.com, there's a link that says coaching, and you can find out more about the Square One program. But yeah, that's kind of all the stuff that I do.
Awesome. And that's a lot of stuff. I think that's
Yeah.
enough for now. That's really good. And you contribute so much. You've saved lives, literally, and helped so many people around the globe. And you're so incredible. We appreciate you coming on so much. We thank you so much for your time and for everything you've shared. And we'd love to have you back in the future. I'll link everything down below, and everybody go follow Chris. Make sure you subscribe, give this video a big thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.